And very good morning on my behalf also to everyone. Soon we are starting reporting from the workshops, all the 12 workshops, and hopefully there is a designated person from each workshop to report here in the summary session. And what will happen is that I'm just asking that where is the person for the workshop 1 to stand up, and there will be a microphone handed, and I'm asking to sum it up in 1 or 2 minutes. Very short introduction to workshop results. And in some workshops we do have report in Screenio, and there might be some PowerPoint presentations as well. We will see. This will be a exciting ride. Yeah, and we will spend some half an hour on the results. And hopefully you really had an enjoyable evening at the library, and as we can see in some photos, that was very memorable moments there. Thank you for that, and Vasa for organizing that evening. Okay, so now it's time for those workshop reports, and we go in, of course, in order of these numbers. And number 1 was the ecosystem-based approach in practice. So who was the person for workshop 1? There you are, and the mic is right there coming from your left. Yeah, there you go. Okay, the base. Oh, hey, it sounds good, but the microphone is not on yet. So you have to repeat it. Now it's on. Go ahead.
Now it's on. Okay, we had a great session with the ecosystem-based approach team. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to announce that we are now moving from the what to the how. We are, ooh, I heard that, ooh. Yes, because the ecosystem-based approach needs a systematic approach. And, but no fear, there are checklists and guidelines and tools to help you. And we have to be responsible and look at what is already there and to use it and discuss what is good, what is bad in these different tools and approaches. Like the Baltic Explorer, which we had a presentation on, and also the Pan-Baltic Scope EBA in MSP handbook. We still recognize the need to develop things further in EBA. I mean, having the base on the environmental challenges, but also linking to the socioeconomic aspects through ecosystem services and also social knowledge to get the link to human welfare as part of EBA. We also discussed that the equity dimension needs a bit more attention as part of EBA, and also the linkage between the marine spatial planning and environmental management, like the MSFD and good environmental status in Europe. So planners and environmental managers have to communicate more at all levels, and regional seas conventions like HELCOM is doing a good job, and other could look at HELCOM and see how they could get inspiration. Finally, true EBA is in MSP is transnational. We have to act according to that and start thinking about impact assessment in a transboundary context. We had an example of that with the Polish-Swedish SCA session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Give a hand to workshop 1. And workshop 2, I think we will have PowerPoint presentation from the engaging local actors turning MSP bottom up. And the reporter is there. The microphone is coming right there. And just turn it on and wait for 5 seconds, and then it will be on. Yes.
Now it's on. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, now the slide has changed a little bit. I see the format is not the original one. But yes, please press the button now. Next, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to discuss about how to turn MSP bottom up. And doing this in an audience that was not like moving tables and doing this in a participatory way, we had to move around quite a lot. I would like to have the next slide. And, oh, that was a bit too fast.
It's coming back in a second.
Okay. Yes, we had a parallel word cloud running and a parallel voting running, and I would like to present the results from this voting and this word cloud here, because this is also what the discussion was very much about. And because this was an interactive workshop, we really needed your feedback, and we were really happy to also see that what our team has found in our different cases in the South Americas and in the Gulf of Bothnia, Stefan, right? Gulf of Bothnia, not Botnian Gulf, have very much to do with each other and can actually be somehow shared. So, what is most important in order to develop this engaging stakeholders more bottom-up in MSP? Capacity building, listening to each other, and knowledge. And if we come to the challenges, what is the problem to get there? Well, it's how to motivate stakeholders to attend new networks, because there's already a lot to do, and they have other things to do. Time, effort, patience, trust, how to create this, how to work this. Understanding each other's needs. And this is also, I think it already sounds a bit into what Jan has presented, and I think this will sound into other workshops as well. And if we come to the enablers, transparency and clear objectives. I think that's actually, it's exactly, the voting is actually exactly matching the challenges. So how to motivate stakeholders and keep them motivated if you really have a workshop and, sorry, not a workshop as we had, but also a participation process that is transparent and where the stakeholders know what they are going to get and what role they are going to play. If you spend the time, effort, patience, and create trust. And if you give voice to different concerns and multiplicity in discussions, sorry for the spelling problem. And my last point is thanks to the Norregio and FIAX SE team and to also our eminent guest. Now I have to think Michelle Quesada da Silva and Stefan, our presenters, and to Screen.io Janne, and to all of you who have participated in our workshop. It has really been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and thank you also to the whole conference.
Thank you.
And yes, one last word. This is another method, and for those who didn't want to keep their voting cards, please return them to me, otherwise keep them as souvenirs.
That's sustainable development. We want to have those cards back. Excellent, thank you very much, Workshop 2. Now we are moving on to Workshop 3, Practices and Possibilities to Monitor Effectiveness of MSP. Reporter is there, microphone is coming in a second, and points are on the screen here. Riku, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we had a session on monitoring of effectiveness of MSP. We had 5 brief presentation on different concrete cases and an opening talk on conceptual background for evaluating spatial planning and broad-scale policies. So we had 6 presentations, that's a lot, but the purpose was to really present 5 country cases that how they have evaluated their plans or are planning to evaluate them, to give the audience an idea that you can do it in very different ways. And each ways they have strengths and weaknesses, and the purpose was not to give a kind of a manual that this is how you do it, but rather to give ideas for thinking of how you would do it in the case of your own country. Well, the difficulty of monitoring and evaluation was raised several times, and many of the presenters pointed out, based on their experience, that too complicated approaches are not necessarily very productive, partly because of knowing the impacts of MSP is challenging, but also just to kind of, if it's very complicated process, you easily get stuck in all these details, not getting the kind of the big messages. And And actually one of the presenters questioned the whole point of trying to verify or measure impacts of MSP in the first place. But the conclusion is that we should look MSP in a broader perspective in evaluation and not just look for the effects. Final comments from the, we also used Screenio, and also all presenters were asked to give the final take-home messages, and the first one was that the indicators, they are useful, but we should not try to build very complicated systems. I think that the most popular of the Screenio points was that do not go crazy with indicators, pointing that, well, less is more in this case. And actually I could say that more is less even. You can get stuck with too much indicators easily. And looking at the process evaluation is also very as important as looking at the effects, and even more important. Another interesting point was that evaluation can be taken as an opportunity to keep up the momentum after plan is done, and then there will be review after some years, but with these continuous or frequent events and discussions how MSP is doing and what are the impacts, it is also kind of a trick to keep the stakeholders and sectors on board after the plan is ready. So, thanks.
Thank you very much. Applause for workshop 3. And the next one, number 4, was assessing cumulative impacts in MSP, and the reporter is there, and we are getting the points soon to the screen. Thank you very much. Microphone is on. It takes a few seconds, and go ahead.
Okay, so we had a workshop on cumulative impact and cumulative impact assessment with presenters from regional scale from HELCOM and also some national examples from Estonia and Sweden and from the Mediterranean, and also about the project of our sister project, the Science project, on the progress there in relation to offshore wind farm assessments. And here on the screen you have the outcome of the meeting in terms of recommendations, and we had the IO tool and the discussion going on, so there's a lot more, so it's worth looking into also the notes. So we found some interesting, was a very good discussion about the potential development point and how to connect between countries and also across regions and sectors. So the recommendations that came out was that we know that cumulative impact assessment is a part of the ecosystem-based approach. So there's a need for the CIA to be more clear and create understandable outputs that can actually support the EBA in a very understandable way for the users, and also to address the sustainability of the MSP, of the plan. So that is an important also part for when you communicate your cumulative impact assessment, to make sure that the messages are actually picked up and taken forward in the process. And also we discussed the fact that there are many different tools available and many different sets of data that you can use, and how to deal with this multiplicity of different options, and concluded that comparing the outcomes of different models is actually a very good way forward. And we discussed the fact that not only making the cumulative impact assessment and presenting is it good, it's equally important to also present and discuss and evaluate the plan, so the assessment. So the discussion after, when you try to understand the result of the CIA, is actually as important in the process than actually performing the assessment, because it will help you where you have your question marks and where you need to dig in further. And also we talked about the need to improve the quality in data and the outputs of CIA, of the assessments, and the importance of acknowledging the data gaps so that you understand what they might imply for your conclusions, and also the need to continuously work on generating further data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, workshop 4. And move on to number 5, MSP for resilient coastal metropolises. The reporter is here, microphone is running towards him. And we have...
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, good morning. Well, we had a really interactive discussion on how to integrate these two really different but strictly interlinked worlds. First of all, the overall goal was to share experience on how these two worlds could be combined, and so how MSP and metropolitan spatial and strategic planning could be combined, as well as discussing the benefits and synergies for integrating MSP and coastal management, and how this integration could be beneficial for resilience of coastal metropolises, also considering the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and also provide local, regional, and international examples. Some key ideas we had from the different case studies, different scales. We went from regional, from the Baltic, to really local examples, as the port of Vigo. We've seen how these different socioeconomic and political contexts and geographical areas share common challenges in integrating land and sea planning. We've seen during our interactive discussions how stakeholder involvement is a key to promote better planning decisions and proper integration of land and sea. And we've seen also, and we have to stress this, how there's a need of improving communication and collaboration between land and sea planning authorities, as well as urban and marine planners. It is also essential to raise awareness and educate coastal population about social, cultural, and economic benefits of living in coastal cities. And it's important to stress how healthy marine and coastal ecosystems, without these healthy and marine and coastal ecosystems, the quality of life of coastal population cannot be ensured or improved, and sustainable development cannot take place. I would like to thank all the participants, all the speakers. We had 3 speakers and then some round tables. And of course, also my colleague Katarina, which helped me in coordinating this workshop. Thank you very much.
Good work. Thank you very much. And now we move on to number 6, MSP, as a contribution to UN Ocean Science Decade for Sustainable Development. And we have a reporter for that there, and points will appear soon to the screen.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here representing the outputs of the workshop, UN Decade workshop. The workshop of UN Ocean Science Decade provides the output how the MSP and the Marine Spatial Plan community can contribute to the implementation of the decade itself. These outcomes will be shared with expert planning groups led by the IOC UNESCO and will be presented to the further discussed during the next MSP forum, presented after that to the Ocean Conference. You can see we subdivided the groups participated in the workshop into 6 groups according to the societal benefit of sustainable development, use of the ocean, to address the main question that is discussed during the 6 groups, how the MSP and MSP community can contribute to a clean ocean, to a healthy and resilient ocean, to a protected ocean and a safe ocean and a sustainable, productive ocean, and how finally can act to transparent and accessible ocean. You can see on the screen some of the recommendations and actions taken and outcomes through the workshop. The main recommendations were MSP community should improve literacy in all sectors, promote data standards and data sharing on multiple formats, create mandatory insurance strategy for marine activities to ensure pollution control, empowering and increasing community knowledge, democratization of the ocean governance, and the actions, the output actions, where land-sea interactions should be part of the decade consultative process. Ocean literacy for MSP and sustainable blue economy is one of the important outcomes and action needed. Manage marine resources against overexploitation and overusage. Promote and finally promote a dialogue and communications between the stakeholders. Thank you, and thanks for all the participants of the workshop for UN Decade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're halfway there, and we're on time. I really admire your being so quick in this reporting. Okay, and now we move on to number 7. Reporter is there, and the points have appeared on the screen now. Please.
Great, thank you. We had a really interesting session workshop on integrating land, sea and society, where we looked at economic and social analysis and land-sea interactions to support MSP. And our key outputs are here. So first, I think we all agreed that these integrated assessments of both the marine environment and society, and also sea and land, are very important to support MSP and assess the impacts of MSP to human welfare. And we talked a little bit about approaches and concluded that we need both qualitative assessments, but also quantitative assessments, including monetary, because there are different kinds of impacts and different approaches are suitable for assessing those. And there's a need to develop spatial approaches, data and results for many of these aspects, many of these impacts, including ecosystem services. And one of the conclusions from the audience and the Screen IO that we used was that we should improve the connections between land-based and MSP databases. We also saw that there's quite a lot of existing data and work that has been done, perhaps in other policy contexts, but that could be used also to support MSP, and we should really build on that and not start everything from scratch and invent the wheel again, but build on existing data and results. We also thought that these assessing economic and social impacts and also looking into land-sea interactions is one of the ways to engage stakeholders, local people, the general public in the planning processes. Many of the approaches are such that you can actually achieve this goal while doing so. And then definitely in the future, we want to further explore the linkages between economic and social analysis and land-sea interactions. I want to thank all the speakers and the panelists that we had in the workshop and also the audience. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we move on to workshop number 8, Marine Green Infrastructure and its role in MSP and climate refugia. Please.
Yes, hello, good morning. We had also a very inspiring workshop and discussion on marine green infrastructure. First of all, we presented our Pan-Baltic scope approach to mapping of marine green infrastructure, and then we looked at the cases from how it's approached in Latvia and in Swedish MSP, and also we looked at expecting change in green infrastructure in relation to climate change. And so we had also a song from Jan, which we sang together, and it was about the green infrastructure is feeding us, and without green infrastructure we will be dead. And then we had a very active panel discussion, and I think with very good results and statements. And so in the panel we tried to discuss what this green infrastructure is good for, and shall it become a common practice in MSP. And so we came to conclusions that green infrastructure concept is good for supporting implementation of ecosystem-based management. It can help boosting MPA network and vice versa, actually, but so it goes actually beyond MPAs, so marine protected areas. It helps to improve connectivity between MPAs, and also if in MPAs we look mostly on some threatened or rare species and habitats, so with green infrastructure we can also give a respect to common species, which anyway are important for ecosystem and for ourselves and our survival. And green infrastructure doesn't require statutory protection, but it should be considered in the MSP process and helping to defining sea uses, that these ecological values are respected. Yeah, in the mapping green infrastructure, we should consider climate change and its impacts to ecosystem. And we also stated that this is a good tool for communicating ecological values to decision makers. And, but we should think about a better packaging of this concept. Obviously, it is not well recognized yet, and so it's probably a way how we call it. And then we had also a voting using this Screen.io about shall we call it green or blue infrastructure. Majority of votes went for blue. It was something like 60 against 30. But then in comments there was also that maybe we should call it ecological infrastructure. So that's a way how to communicate, how to call, and how to raise awareness about different ecological values which we should consider in MSP process. Yeah.
Thank you very much. For number 8, and now it's time for number 9, which I was involved, and we just realized that we haven't yet decided who is going to report, but we had a reporter, so I'm very happy to give floor now to Marie. Please, floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I will give some messages, and Jan, if you want, you can complete if you feel you should. So, the main goal of this workshop session was also sharing experiences. And the main outcomes was, as the other, get some recommendations and key actions to be considered for the MSP Global group. We had at the beginning, two inspiration presentations on cross-border cooperation. The first one was addressing the HELCOM VASA working group experience, and the second one was on the transboundary cooperation in the Mediterranean, which includes also EU and non-EU countries with different contexts, and this is also an additional challenge. And then participants were divided into small discussing groups, and we had some questions that we asked them to discuss a little bit, and then fill in the Screen.io all the contributions, and after each discussion they vote on the contributions to select the most important. So these questions included successful experience or good experience on the transboundary cooperation, and the main important topics were keep talking to each other and zoom in specific topics, and keep on regional organization has a vital to balance conflicts and different ideas between different countries. Second questions was thinking also about negative experiences, and the most voted ones were diplomatic issues and historic tensions between countries and regional authorities that do not feel close connection to big transboundary issues. So this should be also keep on discussion. The third question was to participants to identify the most important issues to be on the agenda, and they selected data sharing and common data effort, linear infrastructures such as cables and pipelines, and again, land sea interactions. For the other questions, what are the competences that we need to address these important issues? And the most voted ones was to have a good mediator, to have legal competences, and to have communication all around the process and with stakeholders. And finally, the key recommendations for the MSP Global working group is to set common guidelines and recommendations on which countries can base their actions, having a clear national mandate when coming to discussion tables, and take all countries relevant actors on board.
Thank you very much, Marie, for this report from Workshop 9. And just to add that in the end, we had a very brilliant comment that this is a global conference. The context is so different in different parts of the world, so we have to take that into account every time we're applying these MSP guidelines and practices. So thank you very much for everybody involved in Workshop 9. And now we move on to this people's choice, which was the climate change. And now we have our people's choice person here from Sweden. Go ahead, Ingela.
Okay, thank you. Well, we were planning for climate change and concrete solutions and choices, and this was really done on the fly. And the ones that we were invited to do some intervention was all asked yesterday evening. So we had emails going back and forth until 12 o'clock in the night. So thanks a lot for all of you that participated. And we would say that start today, come up with concrete solutions. That's the most important thing.
Yes, and the important thing in this workshop was the knowledge and the ideas of the participants, to collect them jointly. And we had 5 recommendations, and the first one.
Raise awareness of what climate change will mean among industry sectors, all, so they know what they choose.
Exactly, and the second one was work with scenarios, plan for the uncertainties. We need different scenarios to know. Because of this uncertainty, we need different scenarios so we can prepare for all of those, like hope for the best and plan for the worst.
And we also need to make the plans more adaptive, but still we need to make sure that they're providing the legal certainty.
Yeah, and partly because of these different scenarios and the previous points, that MSP as a process and plan should offer opportunities for different kinds of growth, because if the lifestyle changes, or if we need to do that, then we need adaptive plans that can harbor all of these futures.
And last but not least, it's very important to align policies with the marine spatial planning and having them all facing the same direction for a better future.
For a better future, exactly. And we got a gift box, and there is still some gingerbread for all the participants if you want. So you're welcome here afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this workshop. And 11, tools, processes, and concepts for integrating maritime cultural heritage into MSP. And who was the reporter? There we go, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this was a session arranged by the Baltic Ring project, which is integrating maritime cultural heritage into MSP. And we are not talking only on underwater heritage, but we want to point out the land-sea interaction, the human dimensions of heritage. That's why we are speaking about maritime cultural heritage, not only on underwater cultural heritage. And for us, we were having one UNESCO expert having a global view, and then from the Baltic Sea region, Baltic Ring examples, and then the Finnish case. And in the panel, we were discussing the Finnish and the Polish case. And our main messages are that maritime and underwater cultural heritage has tangible and intangible values. And thereby, maritime heritage is connected to society, to nature, to environment, to conditions of the environment, to cultural uses, and to emotional values of citizens. And that's why heritage links and embodies both social, cultural, and environmental values in a comprehensive way and has economic potential. Therefore, in a modern society, the heritage should be considered in MSP in all phases and in different scales. And we have noticed that it is a challenge to integrate this heritage to the MSP. And we know that we need their new thinking and innovative strategies to insert the heritage to MSP. At national level, the processes of MSP are quite different, and we had these 2 examples of Finland and Poland in a closer look, and then we had presented example of all the Baltic Ring countries. The police case is a country with closed registers for the heritage, but they have in the MSP, they have designated an area for heritage, which is something, it's not, I think it's the only one. But it is, the heritage is there a very narrow issue because it is based totally on this register. While in Finland, where the register is open and accessible to all, and the MSP process has been very participatory, involving the regions, it means that it has resulted that the heritage there is a broad concept, and it has been taken account in many different ways. But we need more examples from the Baltic Sea region, how to make this in different national circumstances. And it's a key issue to include the maritime cultural heritage into all levels of planning. And we think that other countries, the Baltic Sea countries, can learn from those approaches which do facilitate the early integration of the maritime cultural heritage at local, regional and national levels. So our main recommendation is integrate maritime cultural heritage into the maritime spatial planning. And our action to recommend it is to communicate between the authorities, between stakeholders and planners and local societies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And number 12 was Ocean Literacy and MSP, Common Objectives and Challenges. And we have reporter here and the points on the screen, please.
Right, I think it's good morning everybody. Our workshop was a tour de force by Francesca Santoro from IOC UNESCO, who took us through a whole range of elements related to ocean literacy and how it could possibly relate to maritime spatial planning. It was a wide-ranging exploration of the concept of ocean literacy. It was an introduction to some people within the workshop about what it meant, and it was an opportunity for others to contribute their examples to the debate. The essential principles, so I think you can see up on the board, are knowledge, communication and action, the three of them being linked to each other. So you start with the fundamental knowledge, you find a way of communicating it effectively, and you encourage the stakeholders of all ranges, ages, disciplines, professional followings, etc., into some kind of action. All can be involved. That was one of the key messages that came through. Because individuals were willing, perhaps more willing, and indeed more able to change than organisations, although you shouldn't rule out the capacity of organisations to change if there is sufficient people power behind the ability to do so. And people power can make organisations change. And in the subject, on the spirit of ocean literacy, we referenced the Blue Planet programme and the tipping point in terms of marine litter that came about once the footage of the marine litter had been aired, not just in the UK, but globally as well. That in turn has led to making organisations change, national legislation in some countries, and ultimately the EU directive on single-use plastics. We had quite a discussion about hard science against soft science, because both have a role to play, but the communication of science itself was recognised as being art. And sometimes we do need professional communicators to get the right message across and make it more accessible, because doing bad communications is actually sometimes worse than not doing a communication at all. So our recommendations are there. One, people should be aware that they can use their position to make a difference. And the upcoming Ocean Decade, 2021 to 2030, is the opportunity for everybody in this room and everybody else that you know to make that sort of difference. And the ability of science to be well communicated to the general public is something perhaps that we still have to work on. But an interesting point was made about the current generation of people coming through, people who are immersed in social media and have it hardwired into their own processes at the moment. They may find it more easy to communicate scientific and other policies and aspects just because it's what they are used to doing already. Engage with social scientists and promote scientists to be good communicators. Don't be afraid of social scientists because they're interested in the messages that you have to put out. And finally, change attitudes. So push the politicians and the decision makers to make the right sorts of decisions that you want and tie it all fundamentally back into marine planning.
Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for this contribution. You might wonder if this material is available at the conference. Mentioned in the first day that there is Mr. Folco Spaghetti here.
Okay, so thank you to the organization staff and Lina Stredzvina especially for having me here. So I need access to the computer to change. Fine, just okay. Okay, so no, just thank you and okay, and so what I'm about to show you is a preview. I tried to do some infographics and some drawings to express and to share some of the of the things, the interesting topics that have been discussed during these workshops. So the fact is, of course, it's a preview. In the upcoming days, I hope all the material will be available on the website. So there have been a lot of discussion about communication during this workshop, and it was a real blast to be there, especially this morning at the one hosted by Francesca Santoro. We discussed a lot about ocean literacy. So after showing you some of the infographics, what I want to stop a moment for is to share some of my questions. I don't have really good answers, so I just share my doubts and my questions about the communication, the science communication nowadays, because I think that somehow in some part of the population, science has lost its power to assess the truth as we consider it. So the challenges I think I had, and these are the questions I ask myself, are how we can express it more effectively. So also one important issue, I think it's the emotional one. I think that even as planner, you should consider that. I mean, you're planning about human people, yes, human people, because people are human, sorry. But the fact is, there is always this irrational thing to be taken in account, this kind of flow or results. Like I think like the Greta case is one that showed that sometimes emotion can be useful to drive people. And well, eventually I just wanted to leave you with this farewell thought. We are discussing and trying to manage a topic the sea is fascinating, really. I mean, people are already attracted by it. If you fail to engage people on this topic, I'm sorry, but I mean, I can't see any other that will engage them more. So thank you. And if you want to keep in touch, this is my, my email, and well, but it will be available on the website. Thank you again. It was really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much for that introduction and for the pictures. And of course, there has been a lot of nice pictures from the photographer, and which were on the screen later, and we'll see them later on also. And now, we have the possibility to see the future of the MSP planning in flesh. I'm so happy that the future is here with us. So I have 5 talented persons, young persons, who will introduce themselves in a minute. And this is now the Young Planners Plenary session. And we'll go through the pitches and the ideas from their side, and then we are later on asking you, how are we going to take youth into account in the planning process in the future? So it's very important to start it now and keep it going on later on. And what led to this idea was that there was a WhatsApp contest for young planners. There was 34 participants in the Baltic Sea region, and original ideas can be seen and received from that website. And there was 3 partners involved in this contest: Puuverket, WhatsApp, and University in Poznan. And now it's time to see the results, and perhaps we go just for the to open up our voices. We just introduce who we are and what is the thing that has popped into your mind during this conference, experience or learning experience from these 2 days that we have experienced. Please, Dominic, you're first.
Thank you, Janne, and also at first a huge thank you to the organizing team to inviting me to this panel. My name is Dominik Klug. I'm working for the German Federal Maritime and Hydrographic Agency. It's short BSH. And BSH is the competent authority for the maritime spatial plans in the German EEZ, in the North Sea and in the Baltic Sea. And I found really interesting to see in the last 2.5 days to observe your commitment and the passion all around the globe about MSP, to see the global, the European perspective, which we know, but also the global perspective with differences and similarities. So that's quite interesting to see in the various workshops.
Thank you, Dominic. Dasha?
Hello, everybody. My name is Dasha Shvaikovskaya. I'm from Estonia, and currently I'm completing my master's degree in nutrition science at Karolinska Institutet in Sweden. And I'm also an EIT Food Fellow, currently working in Madrid, Spain. And I'm also very happy and honored to be here. And I really enjoyed the workshops, and I find it very interesting that the topic of the land-sea interaction is being brought up constantly. And I think this is a very important aspect of maritime spatial planning, to look like higher up from the water border. And I would like to highlight that in my upcoming presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Shaba? Oh, we can give up. Hey, we have to take one round for Dominic also, because we're forgetting that. Sorry. Okay, Shaba, you're next.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Maritime Spatial Forum for inviting me. I'm Shahba Al-Kibsi from Yemen. My background is architecture, and I continued doing my master's degree in Europe as a maritime spatial planning. I'm interested in transboundary MSP, especially in collecting data and harmonize it. About the forum, okay. It was amazing to see all of you here. The diversity of the topics that it was covered in the global forum, it's amazing. It shows that MSP is really unique. And also the diversity of the people, like coming from the public to the politicians or authority, representative of authorities, all the way to locals from different nationalities. And that creates a network between us, and we can update each other of what's happening in MSP all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And Xinghui, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shenghui Li from China. I'm so happy to be here, because for me, I'm a PhD student from Xiamen University, and right now I attend a joint program in University of Liverpool to study transboundary marine spatial planning. So for me, this forum is the biggest event for me in this whole year. because it's totally related to my thesis writing. And as I said, my thesis topic is about transboundary marine spatial planning, and I hope, in a theoretical perspective, I hope to explore the interrelationship between transboundary marine spatial planning and the collaborative governance theory. And for practice perspective, I hope to summarize EU transboundary marine spatial planning experience to Asia countries, although I know it's totally different systems, but I believe the value of transboundary marine spatial planning, and I know that in Asian countries we have a high interest and demand for marine spatial planning. So hopefully I can finish this very challenging task next year. And for this forum, yeah, it's really great that I can have a face-to-face dialogue with speakers, with marine planners, researchers in the workshop and also in the project corner, countries corner, and I gave many informations to my thesis writing. And also, for me, I also compared with to find some answers for my research question. I think the most important things that I found that is also a big surprise that I get more questions here within all those 12 workshops. Yeah, also it's very great for me to explore transboundary marine spatial planning in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we travel over the sea to Bruno.
Bruno, okay. So my name is Bruno Minuzzi Chemis. I'm from Brazil. I'm colleague here in Europe and speak Latin. Next. In a new job, so it's a good thing. And the main learning from here is probably that the reality is more tricky than the theory, isn't it? It's more.
Thank you very much. And we have 3 presentations, short pitches to begin with. And Dominic, you're first to go. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Today I'm happy to present you the pitch from our idea during the Young Planners Contest. It's from our team together with Inta, Alina and Joanna. And it's Baltic Sea Green Money, in short BEAM. We thought during the contest, what is the big issue or what is the big topic for MSP? And we came up, and I think also what we heard during the last 2 days is that the environment is quite, a big topic. It's quite important. And so we focus on the environment. It's quite important. You can see it in figure 1. That's our focus. We use the sea in the different sectors like shipping, energy, fisheries, and so on. And with BEAM, we want to repay the environment. And that's why we came up with the BEAM game. You can see it in figure 2. That's the idea. The game, it's a serious game, and it should raise awareness for stakeholders, but also for the public. There is a rating, which you can see, for the different users, like shipping, fishing, energy, and so on, and the pollution or the level of the damage. So there will be a status quo analysis, and for every county in the Baltic Sea region. And the overall goal of the game is to reach a better environmental status. How can we get there? The idea is, of course, for the environment, there are no borders. We all share the Baltic Sea, so we really have to collaborate together. It's needed to talk to your neighbors, to exchange and to maybe trade some uses. That's also what you can see. And we hope to reach a better environmental status in the future. Another option is to use compensation measures. That's something you can see in figure 3, that in the test case for Sweden, Latvia, and Lithuania, we thought about different examples of compensation measures. For example, wind farm and mussel farms combining, wetlands, mitigation of coastal erosion, or water cleaning with scrubbers as innovative idea, or also some onshore power for ships. So these are some compensation measures we have in mind, and you can also, together with the countries, use some of these measures. It's a bit like the idea when you buy a flight ticket. You can also choose this environmental CO2 tax, and that's part of the idea to maybe use also for private persons to say, yes, we want to compensate. And that's the short term, and on the long term, in figure 4, you can see if there is interest for the different countries, for example, like HELCOM in the lead or some organization, all the Baltic Sea region countries could come together and, depending on the environmental status and some other factors like GDP, they could invest in measures for the environment and decide it together. To sum up, in figure 5, it's quite complex. You want to start with the beam game, then raise awareness, especially for the stakeholders, and also cooperate. Then it comes back to the compensation measures, and at the end, the country has the power and the ability to influence and steer the sectors. And yeah, I would say that's the short pitch of our idea, and I hope that you will invest in the future in beam money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Any quick questions or comments on the Baltic Sea green money pitch that you want to share? We take it later on. Thank you very much, Dominic. And now, Dasa, it's your turn.
Our current unsustainable food systems continuing to put constant pressure on the ecosystem of the Baltic Sea. For instance, our meat-heavy diets are one of the main driving factors of the constant nutrient flow into the Baltic Sea, with common agricultural policy of the EU also subsidizing the large-scale industrial livestock farming. Therefore, nowadays agriculture accounts for up to 90% of the total nitrogen and 60 to 80% of the total phosphorus influx into the Baltic Sea through the river basins and groundwaters from the farms located even far inland from the sea. And unfortunately, the numerous regulatory measures and the innovative techniques for better manure management haven't reached the desired goal, and nowadays 95% of the Baltic Sea is suffering from the eutrophication. And the greenhouse gas emissions from the animal farms are further driving the climate change problem and temperature rise, making the matters worse. Bearing that in mind, my team and I embarked into the new future system of the Baltic Sea region and tried to envision how the situation could be improved in 2050. So first of all, we proposed to introduce the new monetary system, so-called bean coin, that could be used to transparently support small mixed farmers and help them to get their businesses and their practices off the ground by the initial food offering. Also, several policy-making measures should be introduced, such as, for example, redirecting the subsidies towards organic farming and agro-environmental climate measures, strengthening the public-private partnerships, as well as introducing the carbon and methane taxes, thus making the food have its real environmentally price. We also thought that we need to provide the support and training for the local legume breeders and establish the bioprocessing facilities for innovative plant-based protein extractions. Last but not least, we developed the vision of the network of Baltic Edu farms, which would provide educational spaces for the people, general public, citizens of the cities to learn about the agriculture and fisheries and the impacts of those sectors on the environment and onto the Baltic Sea, as well as provide the actual physical place for the policymakers, farmers, fishermen, and consumers, so citizens, to meet and have an open dialogue and to learn about the system. This educational system would ensure the public participation in the policymaking processes, as well as provides more holistic ecosystem-based approach. So that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dasa, very much for this pitch. Quick comments or questions on this one? And I'm so happy that this younger generation is here for these food issues, and at least in many families there's also a nudging policy where the youngsters are teaching us older ones how to eat and to be sustainable in those matters. So thank you for that. Okay, and now it's time for the third presentation. Shaba, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Today, I will show you the young generation or the young planners' vision in the Baltic Sea. I would like to share this photo. I took it when I was doing my internship in the Finnish Environmental Institute, and I was traveling with my supervisor, Rico, and we were passing from Helsinki to Tallinn, and then the ferry was breaking the ice, and it was the first time that I see the sea with the borders. But still, I couldn't recognize if this is the Finnish water or Estonian water or what's underneath the sea. And it was amazing to see that human being can't understand the sea space yet. In August, I participated in the Young Planner Contest, and me with the amazing group who came from different planner fields, who are also with us today, suggested a vision for the Baltic Sea. So how we started it is we created a timeline. In this timeline, we saw the current situation that we all already know, how the Baltic Sea, it has the challenges like environmental challenges, governmental challenges, but everyone is planning the sea. National authorities are already going with MSP. So we tried to see how it's going to be in 2030. In 2030, the Baltic Sea, we suggested to have a Baltic belt around the Baltic Sea states. This Baltic belt will be extended from the land to the sea. This belt will solve the challenges of the land-sea interaction. We will answer questions that we are now raising in the land-sea interaction. However, this Baltic belt will have a unified regulation between all Baltic Sea states. Also, the Baltic belt will be managed by the Baltic Sea states, and also the plans will be monitored and implemented by the Baltic Sea states. In 2050, ta-da, we will eliminate the borders. Yeah. We will eliminate the borders, but we're not taking the sovereignty from the countries. We will create the inner part of the Baltic Sea as one. We will manage it as one body. For example, if a country, all the countries now has to have 10% of their water sea, for example, marine protected areas, but instead we will check the demand first of the sea. And we connect all the MPAs together, but then maybe country X will have a lot of protected areas, not like another country, and then they will not have a space for offshore wind farm. So maybe they can go to a neighboring country and use their space and share it together and invest in the same place for offshore wind farm and share the electricity. This, the inner part of the Baltic Sea, which is now the exclusive economic zone, will be managed by the United Baltic Belt Council. One council. We will have one representative from each country of the Baltic Sea, from each sector. Locals are involved, advisors will be involved, scientists, And they will tackle the social, the political, and environmental dimension. And also their task will be to put new policies, recommend, for example, do recommendation for areas, monitor the plan, evaluate, collect data, but in one council, under one council. We would really like me and my group to discuss this idea with really experts. And I think this approach is not new for European, because here it's one continent. So maybe we go to the sea and do the same concept. And maybe really we need to think now with all the borders that we're making and the regulation that we're making it right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this hope for the future. Any comments or reflections on this pitch? No. Our Chinese and Brazilian presenters, we didn't have any pitch ready or prepared for this, but now you're free to reflect on how youth should be involved in the MSP processes from your own experiences or from this forum that we have now spent. Please share your visions. Shengli, just first.
Thank you. For me, I think it's really a great opportunity for, just as my own experience. I got the chance to go to UK to learn marine spatial planning. And also I'm thinking, I know Marina is here, and because I attended 2 marine spatial planning education program. One is in University of Nantes, France, about the marine spatial planning winter school, and also this year in May we have the marine spatial planning summer school in University of Liverpool. So I think these 2 marine spatial planning training program or educational program is really great for me to get more involved in the marine spatial planning, because we can get more knowledge sharing and also from the presentations, and we also played the marine spatial planning games from these 2 forms. So to winter school and the summer school for marine spatial planning, this is one thing that I think Marina is one of the main organizers, and also he really did a lot of effort for this, and also he's still on the progress to get more countries get involved in this marine spatial planning education for more graduate students, master students. Yeah, this is one thing. And maybe you can.
Yes. So yesterday night when we were all dancing, Alejandro asked me to ask some questions to young planners. He told me also he would pay me a beer for that. I still remember. So I went around asking the young people what they were thinking about the forum, about how we all could be more involved in this forum, and thoughts about the future of MSP and what should be improved. So in general terms, everyone was very, very happy, extremely happy, because this is an environment we can strengthen our bonds, and create more relations to planners, to scientists, and to other people from a diverse range of countries. And also it's a space to meet friends, which is very important, because in the future when we'll have hopefully high positions, so we'll be friends of people in other countries, and maybe you agree in other terms, or in many terms actually. So also one concern about many young planners is actually about 70 to 80% of people that were dancing yesterday told me that they are looking for jobs, or they will be looking very soon for jobs because their contracts are almost ending. So what happens is like the main restriction to get like in an easier way jobs is experience, and so more internships and mainly paid or with some contribution internships would be nice, and this could be like a nice environment maybe to approach, or if you need like people to help you, could like approach us and say, hey, why don't you come and work for me for 3 months, or even remotely, because I have some things to solve and I cannot solve like alone. I'm very busy. Another thing the PhD students mainly asked me to say, that we could like approach the peer reviewers with the PhD students, like to maybe create like a stronger relationship of suggestions and adding some points of their studies. An idea could be also have maybe some posters, like one night they could, during the drinks, like have some posters, like my work is this, like what do you think? And very informal way, very efficient way. Also, maybe more workshops with younger people. So I received some critiques about very small critics, no worries, like everything. But
You're grown up, you can take it.
Very organized, very nice food. Thank you, Latvia, you rock. Some workshops were not very interactive, so maybe a more reciprocity, and like some were very interactive and very dynamic, but some of them could have been more two-way conversation. One of the things was the application. Many people couldn't use very well the application. The previous application that was used in the other forums were more effective according to these people. But this is something that for the organization that, what else? Well, I have a lot of points here. But no worries, I know you are hungry and I will not take a lot of your time. About the future of MSP, one thing that came up was optimism. Like positivity is something very important in the field, even though sometimes things are burning, like we should like focus and be positive. Like communication. We heard many times, and the younger planners were saying like not only better understanding of the stakes participation, knowing more about the bottom, not only the top of the pyramid, but also communicate to people outside, that they are not involved in literacy and so on, that should be stressed and that are extremely important for the future of MSP. And actually, talking about future MSP, some people even asked me, oh, that's a good question. What MSP will look like after 2021? Will there be MSP after 2021? It's like, oh, we'll just revise the plans and we won't have jobs anymore. And this was another concern. But in general terms, like everyone was very positive, and I guess that's it. And we're also waiting your feedbacks and your job opportunities too.
Yeah. Give a hand to Bruno. So they are really challenging us. And now the question is to you, how could we involve youth further on? So please use the forum Screenio address, which is mdi.screen.io/MSPforum. There is now the field open. How could we involve youth further on? Talk to each other for 1 minute and keep throwing in those good ideas, and then we'll see. Are we able to feedback on those ones? So 1 minute of good ideas. How could we involve youth further on? Talk to each other, fill in fields in there, and we continue in 1 minute.
fire me, hire them.
Just borrowing this one.
Yes.
So we definitely have the winner there. Fire me, hire them. That's number one. And you can just keep on throwing those ideas, but now we're going to have just quick reflections from them, from these ideas, or what they have now come up with, those ideas from you, and they want to respond somehow. So you just go on and react on those. Okay. Dominic, you're first.
Yes, thank you. I have a direct question. Who was it? Who said fire me? Who can we? We're happy to get hired. No, I think it's what I also saw a bit below, to make maybe some WhatsApp youth whatever thing. At first, I really liked the Young Planners Contest, and I would really like to see another version in the next years, whenever. And I think it would be great to involve the youth in some meetings. Yeah, that's what I would really like to see. And of course, I like the point, hire them. So.
There you go. And Dustin.
Yeah, I'm also down to become a part of the Young WhatsApp committee, but actually I wanted to say that indeed providing the opportunities for young professionals to have internships in different organizations gives us also the more realistic view of how do this organization work, because one thing is like to have all these amazing ideas and visions, and the other to learn how to face the reality and how can you actually make the system by understanding its complexity. So yeah, I'm also for internships and more opportunities for us to get involved in existing projects.
Thank you. Shaba?
I totally understand that we can't participate in national plans because it's held with the national language of the countries. But MSP is more than national plans. We still have many gaps. We still have uncertainty. Maybe we can bring for this young generation to come and fill the gaps that it's missing in the MSP. So we don't reach to a point that we ask ourselves, then what we have to do now. Maybe the young generation can put scenarios for later, how to keep on with MSP, what's coming, the uncertainty. We solve these questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And as for the platform for job opportunities, I'm thinking maybe in the next year, Marine Spatial Planning Forum, maybe we could have a youth workshop. Like this year we have 12 workshops, but there's no one for the youth. Maybe in the next Marine Spatial Planning Forum, we can have the workshop for those young generations, maybe for their marine planners in the future. So I think it will be a very great opportunity for us to get more youth from all over the world to have more communications and experience sharing, and also maybe we can find a job. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheng Hui. And then Bruno.
Should I talk again?
A little bit shorter.
Yes, internship, grants, and even like sometimes we are even not working yet in the area. We are working with some random stuff to maintain ourselves. We can also give our time as a volunteer and work remotely, sometimes even GIS stuff or organization stuff, and that's it. We are here to help and to learn and to have more experience.
Thank you. And is there anybody who wants to share ideas just with the microphone? Comment. Alejandro, thanks.
Thank you, Janne.
Wait just for a few seconds, then it will open up. Yeah.
Now, yes. Thank you, Janne, and all our colleagues. I will pay you the beer. Don't worry.
I'm waiting. Looking for it.
I just want to share my experience, because sometimes when we organize international events and we invite and we contact the institution X, and we say, okay, we would like to invite this young planner to join our meeting, then the director, that normally is from the retired planners group, say, no, I'm representing the institution, I'm going. Same for gender balance. This is another issue. And once we invite the young planners, now that they propose a youth council and this might be useless, because at the end the decisions are not taken by the young planners, are taken by the retired planners. And I think this it should be seen as well in our parliaments, in all our countries, to see the level or the age of our politicians and representatives. More and more we have young people, but not these planners. I mean, to create a specific session just for the young planners, I'm against. I like the idea because you see this, but I'm against. They should be in all sessions because they are planners. I mean, they are not children. And I think this is important. Say, wow, they are like very young. No, they are planners like all of us. And I think this is an important message. IOC of UNESCO is a partner together with the universities of Venezia, Azores and Sevilla of the Erasmus Mundus master course. And we have already hired from this group 10 of them as consultants. It's just to give them the first opportunity for them to contribute to the global marine planning activities. And we are proud of this. It's just for reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alejandro.